This
I
is
like the opening.
Geez, okay. I was going to ask.
I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
This week we're going to discuss the Ultimates. We're the guys that bring you the 6 months behind podcast with everything in the great Marvel Unlimited app. And we're going to explore the Ultimates and the Ultimates 2 and how they are relevant to everything you want to know in Marvel.
Okay. I got to remember how I did it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm glad you liked the opening because I liked it.
Oh, dude, sounded great, man.
Cool.
Yeah, it was very good.
Alrighty then. All right, let me look at my notes here. Saw Wonder Woman, by the way.
How was it?
It was good. The first hour of the movie is really slow. I mean, the movie, it takes an hour for the movie to get good. Once it does, it's really good, but it took a while getting there.
Yeah, I understand. I was talking to a girl down in Birmingham. She went and saw it over the weekend. She was disappointed in it.
Really?
Well, she just didn't. She didn't think it was as good as it. She'd heard
Everybody
great
said.
reviews, and didn't think it was as good as the reviews.
Yeah, I would say it's probably not up to the hype. I'd agree with that. I really enjoyed the second half of it. That's the thing, is the second half is great. If I can have a whole movie with just Wonder Woman whipping Nazis, I will totally be into that. But
right,
they took too long to explain her origin. They took too much time just faffing about getting around to what they were supposed to be doing. They explained what they were supposed to be doing. Then they wandered around London for a while, and then finally, even after that, it took them another 15, 20 minutes to get where they needed to be. So,
yeah, I'm with you. But was it a good origin story?
Yeah, I guess. I don't find her origin story to be compelling in the first place. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's been retold so many times in so many different ways. It's kind of convoluted. So,
right. I mean, the first 30 minutes is her origin. Like literally her growing up from a little girl to an adult. And it's like, dude, come on. Let's pick up the pace. I mean, seriously, a couple times, like, I just found my mind wandering. And I was like, what? Okay, is she Wonder Woman yet? Okay, all right. Anyway.
Yeah, I told her, I was like, have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy yet? She was like, no. I said, well, you made the wrong decision.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, you ready?
Sure.
You got the intro ready to go?
Sure.
Cool.
I'm working on the next podcast.
All right, then. I'm going to try to get some comic books read tonight. I'm going to watch a basketball game and also read comic books.
Oh, I forgot there was a basketball game. I was thinking about watching Raw.
Okay. I'm going to count us in.
Brock's going to be on there tonight.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, before we go any further, do you have wisdom for 6 months?
No, but I'll find it.
Okay.
Nothing but a thing, man. Nothing but a thing.
Do we know who we are this week?
No, but we'll figure that out too.
Okay. Let's see.
Kevin Durant and Steph Curry.
Yeah, that'll do. Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. Kevin Durant's mom and Steph Curry.
And Steph Curry's mom.
Yeah, and Steph Curry's mom. Did you see where somebody got in Kevin Durant's mom's face at a game the other night?
No, but it doesn't surprise me.
Like at the game in Oakland, some random fan just starts going off on her in the stands.
It's that whole First Amendment thing. Everybody thinks you can do or say whatever you want. And there's no repercussions.
Right.
It's just,
yeah.
It's hard these days, man. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
It's they just think they have the right to say or do anything, anytime, anywhere. And they've lost all civility and all reason.
Yeah. And it's this thing where they don't understand that, yes, that speech is protected from the law. The government can't arrest you for saying Donald Trump sucks or calling or saying the N-word on your HBO show.
Right.
But there are still social consequences and repercussions for your speech.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that all speech should be defended.
And it can still get you fired, and it still has repercussions. And you still have problems with your sponsors. You still have problems with your friends. You're still going to have social repercussions. There's still repercussions to it.
Right. So when I hear, some crazy Trump supporter at work saying, me talking about Bill Maher, and he's like, well, he has every right to say that. Well,
sure it does.
Sure. But that doesn't mean that HBO doesn't have the right to fire him or that sponsors can't leave. Well, I don't think that's right. Well, let's turn the tables. What if he was a black guy bad-mouthing white people? How would you feel about that? Or, you get that response. It's like, exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's do a podcast.
Yeah. What issue does this run through?
I don't know. That probably would have been.
But it's a 3-year run.
Yeah, roughly. Hang on.
I got it. Let's get the cell phone while we're at it. Through 156.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You ready?
Yeah, I think I got all snot sucked out, coughed up, and I think I'm ready.
Hopefully the power didn't go out. There's a thunderstorm in the area.
All
right. 3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the
not the 6 months behind podcast.
Nope. I was thinking about your thunderstorm.
This is the weather podcast. No.
Yeah.
All right. Hello again.
You going to count us down? You just want me to hit it?
3, 2, 1.
Hello again. This is the What's Next podcast. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And we are here to give you enlightened reading in the Marvel Unlimited universe, where we can just expand your horizons on great reads that you won't find on the app that sucks. Because the books are great. The app's just kind of, the app doesn't work so very well. How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I am well. This week, we are going to discuss Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, which went from 2001 through 2004, covering issues 114 through 156. It's a great run. We're looking forward to talking about it. We're kicking around what X-Men series to do. Do we want to do the classic Claremont run, the Grant Morrison run? There's so many great X-Men runs out there. This is what we settled on. So, we're looking forward to it, man. The email is
6 months behind at gmail.com. That's the number 6 months behind at gmail.com. You can also visit our website,
www.6monthsbehind.com. The Twitter feed is
you can hit us up at 6 months behind.
Yeah, and you were going to say something about the run before I interrupted you with all the technical stuff.
No, that's all good. What I was going to say is when we got the idea for this show, I decided I really wanted to focus on really good X-Men stuff, mostly because most of my Marvel reading for most of my young life was X-Men. I really love the X-Men. And I thought, do we want to do that old stuff? Okay, maybe we'll get to the Chris Claremont, John Byrne stuff shortly because that is classic reading. But I think I want to start with, let's take a look back at the modern X-Men. The state of the X-Men books in recent years has not been great. The stuff, aside from Death of X and Ivy X, the stuff we've been reading has been mediocre. So I thought we'd go back and kind of take a look at more what we know to be the modern X-Men, the origin of the modern X-Men. So I thought this would be a good start. It's New X-Men. It's Grant Morrison's run on the series. Grant Morrison wrote it. Frank Quietly was your artist. Later, Chris Bachalo, Leinil Yu, Philip Jimenez, and Mark Silvestri were artists on the book, all of whom are your premier X-Men artists. All of them do really great work in their own right, but when they do the X-Men, I feel like they're at their best. I love Chris Bachalo's work on the X-Men too. But to me, the art that Frank Quietly does here in this New X-Men run, to me, is my favorite style of art for X-Men. And a lot of that has to do with the love that I have for this series. So what this is in 2001, July 2001, the first issue comes out with number 114. The reason is that this is a retitling of the ongoing, then second volume of the main X-Men series. That's what, and it shares the series numbering. They never changed the numbering; they just changed the title. Marvel doing weird stuff with comic book numbering, as they have always done.
Don't even try and keep track of it. Just go with it.
Just enjoy the books. So this run right here is where they really establish the modern X-Men as we know them today. Your major players in this story or in this run is Cyclops, Jean Grey. Yes, she's alive again in this. Professor X, Emma Frost, who becomes a big player here. You got Beast, you got Wolverine, you have Zorn, who is introduced in this series. The Stepford Cuckoos also. So it's a 3-year run. It runs from issue 114 to 156. That's a lot to read. I really think you should read all of it, but let me just give you some highlights from this series. This is where they introduce the modern costumes, the costumes that you know from the series, the movies, that those kind of leather black with X designs on them in red and yellow colors. You can see it on the very first issue. The cover of the very first issue in 114, you see the redesigned X-Men costumes. They get away from that sort of 90s look like you know them from the 90s cartoon and stuff. Yeah,
this is where they transformed from the 90s cartoon to essentially what they have now. Yes. That leather look. When Logan's joking about it in the movie, this is where they transform from that to this.
Yes. Also, you see the destruction of Genosha, which happens in issue 115, the second in the series. And if you've read X-Men comics, you know that the destruction of Genosha was a big deal. It's one of those points in the timeline that is the X-Men that reverberates through the entire future of the X-Men. The destruction
there was a story on it last week.
Really?
Yeah, there was a one of the books, one of the Uncanny books last week there was a story where
the dude's trying to raise all the
dead there in Genosha.
Yeah. And you actually see Genosha being destroyed in that second issue, which is really cool. It's a pity they all die, but the sequence that as you see it is, it's death and destruction at 60 miles an hour. You also have the first appearance of Zorn. If you don't know who Zorn is, or if you kind of sort of know who Zorn is, that's how I am. I kind of sort of know who Zorn is. I know him from this series, and you see him later. I don't really know what happened to him in the meantime. He's introduced in this series. It's the first appearance of the Stepford Cuckoos, who were actually 5 sisters, not 3, when they're first introduced. So this is the first time you see them. And if you ask, well, why are there only 3 of them now? Then you have to read this series. Another first for this series is the first appearance of Phantomax, who is your more serious French version of Deadpool, kind of. That's kind of how I always thought of him.
Yeah, basically. But he's got that cool spaceship, which kind of
he does
separates
have
him from
this.
Deadpool. And I've yet to figure out if the spaceship's like alive or a part of him or what it really is, because I don't think it's ever been explained. But it's totally cool, so we just go with it.
Yeah, it's kind of implied that the ship is semi-sentient, or is at least, highly intelligent or something. Something's going on with the ship.
Yeah.
And he's introduced in this series, and he quickly became one of my favorite mutants that runs around in the X-Men universe. So we have a bunch of firsts, and as I go through here, you'll see the footprints that this has left in the X-Men going forward. Emma Frost is introduced as an X-woman, part of the team. Until then, she had been a villain with the Hellfire Club. Mostly.
Yeah, this was just totally transforming who Emma Frost was at this point.
Right. You totally changed her character, and it was kind of a big deal at the time. People were a little upset about it. They were like, Emma Frost, why would you bring Emma Frost in? She, you fought against her for years. Why would you suddenly bring her on board? You might as well bring Magneto on board, which they did later.
Well,
but,
No, they did that a few decades ago.
Well, I guess they did. I was thinking back
X-Men.
Go ahead.
X-Men 200 in 1983, 84, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking more recently when Cyclops really took over the team.
Yeah.
Speaking of Cyclops, this starts the whole Cyclops, Emma, Jean love triangle thing. You figure out how this is where it's introduced that there's a love interest among Cyclops and Emma, and it causes some problems with Jean. And as we know, Cyclops and Emma are together later on. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of how this plays out. This is where Beast gets his more cat-like appearance. If you've noticed in the more modern X-Men books, instead of looking like a big blue gorilla type thing, he's a little more like a lion or a panther, or he has more cat-like features. And it's explained as like a secondary mutation, that his mutation has evolved. It's expanded, but they really just kind of wanted to redesign the character.
Well, but they also did that to several other characters. That's when Emma Frost also got the diamond form.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. She gets her diamond form.
Right, she gets her diamond form, and several other characters got a secondary mutation also.
Right. You have the retconning of the death of the Phoenix, sort of. I forget if Jean was alive before this, had come back to life before this or not.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember.
That she's been alive and dead so many times.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I can't remember when she's alive and when she's dead, and they've retconned it, and they've retconned the retcons, and
are we telling how this ends?
We can go into that. It's been out for over 15. It's been like 15 years. I'm sure. Your spoiler time is over.
Okay, your spoiler time is over. You get a great love triangle between Cyclops and Emma and Jean, but you also get that love triangle between Logan and Scott and Jean. And once Scott starts hooking up with Jean, well, then Logan's free to hook up, or Scott starts hooking up with Emma, then Logan's free to hook up with Jean.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the only problem is he has to kill her because she's the Phoenix, and they're flying the shuttle into the sun, and he has to kill her before she becomes the Phoenix again.
Right.
Which I believe is the last issue of Morrison's run, which is number 156. I believe that's the end of 156.
I would have to look at it again, because While we're doing this, I did not read the whole run. I have actually not read it in a little while, but it does.
You keep talking. I'll look.
She is reintroduced as with the power of the Phoenix and having power over the Phoenix in this series, and it does result in her death at the end of it. Also forgot Salvador LaRocca did some of this art, and it looks really good in later issues. So this is also where they introduced the Xavier School as an expanded, legitimate school with students. Until then, the school had kind of been a front for the X-Men. In this series, it's an actual school. The X-Men are the teachers. There are plenty of students running around as mutants. That includes Glob, No Girl, and Ernst, who we saw in Extraordinary X-Men recently, fighting Apocalypse. And it took them 15 years, but they finally powered up these teenage X-Men, or these teenage mutants, into real X-Men, which was great because in this whole series, they're just kind of in the background all the time. This series also is where Wolverine discovers most of the details of his past involving Weapon X and all that. It actually establishes the Weapon X program as the number 10, the X being the Roman numeral for 10. This program actually dates back to World War II, and their first program was Operation Rebirth, which is Captain America. And by the program, he's designated as Weapon 1. So when you see X-23, she's Weapon 23, essentially, which makes Wolverine Weapon 10. So lots of ground covered, lots of status quo changes in this series. And another thing most people really don't know is that as far back as 2003, Joss Whedon had been rumored to take over Morrison, or take over the series after Morrison exited the title. That didn't happen. When Morrison left the title, they renamed it again, or they ended it and started another volume as just New X-Men, if I remember correctly. But Joss did go on to write Astonishing X-Men with John Cassidy. But in an interview, he explains that Joss Whedon explains that his run on Astonishing X-Men is a direct continuation of Morrison's work in New X-Men here. By the way, Astonishing X-Men is a must-read if you haven't already read it. And we may talk about that next week. I'm gonna take you guys through the whole, like starting here through the highlights of the modern X-Men. Later, we're going to talk about Messiah Complex, which was a really cool event that brings back X-Force. We'll talk about House of M.
You keep talking about how great Messiah Complex is. Out of all the X events, it's like number 15 on the list.
Sure. I mean, if you incorporate all of them, but I really enjoyed Messiah Complex.
I know you did, but I think it's like, dude, I think it's way down there.
Well, we'll revisit and we'll see what you think later on.
I mean, if I were to start listing X events, and by the way, I'm trying to find this friggin' new X-Men thing, and I'm not succeeding.
Go to Browse Series, go to the letter N. You'll see new. It'll be New X-Men 2001 to 2004.
Oh, I bet I looked under all.
Yeah, it's not all New X-Men. It's just New X-Men.
Yeah. Now I'm under creators. I was trying to find Grant Morrison's name.
Oh,
I bet I was looking.
All New X-Men was where Bendis started writing it just a couple of years ago. And
all right, I was looking under all, and there's like 3 series under all.
Yeah, no, it's just New X-Men, and it's the 2001 to 2004 series. Yeah, they relaunch it as New X-Men again in 2004 with Christina Weir as the writer, and I kind of quit reading it around there. It wasn't great. Although Uncanny of that era is not half bad. So yeah, the Grant Morrison run on New X-Men establishes the modern era of the X-Men as we know them. It leaves a huge footprint on the narrative of the X-Men franchise going forward. The movies borrow from it quite heavily. It's a great jumping on point if you're looking to get into X-Men comics. If you like the X-Men but you don't know a lot about the comics, this is a good starting point. You can go back and read some of the Phoenix Saga and stuff later, all of which is great. But if you're looking for something to just, this is what the X-Men are, this is a good starting point. It's also a good introduction for people who are new to comic books altogether. I feel like this is, if someone says, hey, I want to read comic books, well, what superheroes do you like? I like the X-Men. Okay, read this. If you read any X-Men comic, read this. If you so the reason for that is the movies. It's very familiar with. It's a lot like the movies, so you'll feel right at home. Also,
after 10 minutes of you talking by yourself, 150 is the issue where she dies.
Okay.
Yes, I forgive me for just leaving you hanging out there talking, continually because I just hung you out to dry. Issue 150.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I can talk about this forever.
Okay, I finally found it. Dude, first I couldn't find the series. Then I started looking under Grant Morrison's name. Now I can't get the page to load. Okay, it's 150.
Yeah. Eventually you just throw the app down and just Google it.
Yeah, it's 150.
Yeah. And for those who are interested, the whole hardback omnibus is $80 online because I checked. Because I felt like, I've always wanted it and I could never find it, but I did find it online for $80 on Jet. But $80 is a little more than I want to spend on. I mean, it'll go on the wish list and maybe I'll get it for Christmas one day, but I have a hard time dropping $80 on comic books.
And by the way, there's still a Phoenix egg sitting there on the moon.
Is it? I'm not sure it is. I think in this series they do something with that Phoenix egg.
No, I don't think so, man. I think it's still sitting there.
I don't know. I remember something about it. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Anyway, that's pretty much it. You got plenty of reading with this one. It'll take you a little while. It is a 3-year run on X-Men, so
it's a great read.
Some 40 odd books. Yeah, man. Anytime someone says, where should I start with comics or I like the X-Men, this is what I point to. This is where I go.
See, and I point him to Claremont's run, and you point him here. They're both great runs. You can't go wrong with either one of them.
No, you can't. But a lot of the times I encounter people who have a harder time getting into that older stuff, even though it is stuff like the Phoenix Saga and Days of Future Past and stuff like that. The art style in particular can be a little hard, especially it's hard to get into, especially for new readers.
I'm with you.
If you're not a seasoned comic book reader, starting with something that's a little more like the movies is, I think, a good starting point.
You have a point there.
Yeah. Well, that pretty much does it. Next week, we'll discuss a few other things, maybe X-Men related, maybe Avengers related. We'll find out. Anyway. If you want to email us and tell us what you think of Grant Morrison's run on the X-Men, the new X-Men, hit us up at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. Also hit us up on Twitter at 6 months behind. That's at 6 months behind on Twitter. You can also visit our website,
www.6monthsbehind.com, where you will find all the notes on this and the link to these books. So you won't have to spend 10 minutes looking for it like I did.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Cool.
I didn't mean to completely hang out to dry there.
I didn't even notice.
I was looking for all new X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's Bendis's run, and it's not great. That's where the all new X-Men is where they introduced the kids from the past.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right. I'm gonna post those 6 months behind notes.
Dude, I gotta figure out what's up with this Marvel man they keep posting. I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I didn't know who he was. It's all black and white. I looked at a little bit of it.
I didn't even look at it.
That was exactly
Yeah.
20 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah. How about we be LeBron James and Steph Curry?
That's fun.
Okay. You got wisdom plug in there?
Well, hang on. I'll find wisdom. Let me see. I got the page saved. Click here. Other bookmarks, funny sayings, or funny wisdom. Let's see what we got. I'm just going to put an out of order sticker on my forehead and call it a day.
Man, I know how you feel.
That was some of the wisdom.
Oh.
I don't have an attitude problem. You have a problem with my attitude, and that's not my problem. We all know someone who speaks fluid shit. Problem with dancing naked is that not everything stops when the music stops.
That's funny.
All right, that's what it is then.
Cool.
Have you seen Central Intelligence?
No.
It's pretty funny.
Is it?
It's got The Rock and
Kevin Hart.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'd heard it was good.
I think it's on HBO. It is on HBO now.
Oh, that movie where what's his name? Dude from Breaking Bad.
Brian.
Yeah. The one who knocks.
Yeah.
I want to say Bryan Singer, but that is sure not it. Bryan Cranston.
Yes.
The movie where he plays Lyndon Johnson.
Oh, dude, I've watched that.
That's have you? Man. Is it okay?
Yeah.
It's on either Hulu or Amazon. And I wanted to, or maybe it's on HBO. One of those. I saw it the other day, and I wanted to watch it. So it's good.
Oh, dude, it's very good. Yeah.
Okay. Because when I saw the trailer for it, I thought it looked good.
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah. No.
You got okay.
Just give me a moment or two.
Okay.
Let me I wanted to figure out one of these characters' names in the Great Lake Avengers. Now you've got me wondering why I don't have notes.
I hate typing the notes. My first method was I would just type notes as I read the book, and then that made me read books really slow. It would take me forever to read a book because I'd be jumping back and forth between note taking and reading. So now I just, like yesterday or today, I'll just sit down once I've got them all read. I'll make a list of all the books that I know I'm reviewing, and just type out notes. Occasionally, if something really strikes me, I'll jot down an idea while I'm reading it. But typically, I'll just review the books, write a quick synopsis, relatively, and any thoughts that I have about the book. And it's a process that, for whatever reason, I don't enjoy doing. But once we get around to doing the show, it makes it much less stressful. I don't have to rely on the app to go through the books. I don't have to try to recall what I read. It's just, it's right there. So even if the app fails me, I can spit it out. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, that's not the thing I had. I'm emailing something to you. I had an idea for new intro music for the show. I just want to see what you think of it. We don't have to use it. It was a cool riff that I thought would fit.
Dang, I still can't figure out this guy's name.
Just Google it.
No, I'm.
Dude, I have so many emails. Why do I not check my email more often?
Okay. I'm over it.
All right.
I'll figure it out.
Okay. Well, I'm ready whenever you are.
Hit it.
Got the intro ready?
Sure.
You know who we are this week?
Yeah, we're
Kevin
Steph
Durant.
Curry and
No, LeBron James and Steph Curry, or Steph Curry and LeBron James. Whichever one you want to be.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Mr. Immortal. There it is. I should have Googled it when I.
But the dude in the coffin?
Yeah.
I could have told you that.
Well, why didn't you tell me?
Because you didn't ask. You didn't say, hey, who's the dude in the coffin? It's Mr. Immortal, because he's in a coffin. He can't die. Okay. You ready for real?
I'm ready, dude. Let's hit it.
Okay.
Let's get this done.
All right. 3.
I'm really not ready.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, I'm ready. All right, hit it. Count it.
Lord. All right. 3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of 6/5/17. We discuss all the great things in the Marvel Unlimited app and all the great books that came out this week. I'm Pat.
And I am Sean.
And this week, we're just enjoying the NBA Finals, which lasted a game longer than everyone thought they would. So, I'm just Kevin Durant and he's LeBron James, and we're just kind of, hanging out, just enjoying comic books, doing our thing,
Playing 7 games over the course of 100 years.
Dude, they literally play 4 games a week during the regular seasons. There are times they will play 3 games in 3 days in a row. And then you get to the playoffs and you get to the finals, and they insist on stretching them out over nearly 16 or 17 days. I don't understand it. I don't.
Yeah. And I understand there's travel time involved and you want the finals to last a little longer. But holy crap, man. How many games do they play in a season?
82.
That's too many
82
games.
In the regular season.
That's too many. It's ridiculous.
82 regular season games, plus the preseason games, plus the postseason games.
Yeah. And then most of them are playing in summer leagues.
Not these guys.
No. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe they're playing pickup games, but, unless it's the Olympics, they're not playing summer games.
Okay. Still, it's too long.
Too long. Yep.
What else is also too long is this intro. So you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. Please visit our website.
www.6monthsbehind.com.
And also visit us on our Twitter page at 6 Months Behind. That's at 6 Months Behind. Come give us a follow where you can see our mad ravings or just us posting episodes and maybe a few other things.
Yep. Or you can find the What's Next podcast, where we discuss great reads and other great reads in the Marvel Unlimited universe.
Yeah, this podcast has really become about reviewing the new books each week and general Marvel talk and discussion. The What's Next podcast is aimed at telling you what's worth reading in the app. You sign up for your $10 a month, you read Civil War, you read House of M, you read, a couple X-Men books, you read Phoenix Saga. What should you read next? Well, we'll tell you. Just go listen to the most recent episode of What's Next, and you'll find out.
Yes, we will tell you all about it. I myself am personally reading every Ultimate comic published, so I can dissect it and tell you what to read and what not to read.
Yeah, because you're crazy.
All 580 issues.
Fuck, dude, that's insane. It's a lot of comic books, man.
If you read Civil War, you're going to read like 130.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
Civil
I guess
War.
so.
What's
Civil War.
Both of them. Both of them. Secret War, Civil, all of them.
Secret War, Civil War, all the wars.
Dude, World War Hulk's got like 80.
Yeah, it's a bunch too.
Yep.
Speaking of wars, don't start a war with us because we spoil something for you, because we do discuss spoilers on this podcast.
We do.
That was a rough segue. Anyway, we do discuss spoilers. We are going to talk about the plot points of this book, specifically with the Inhumans versus X-Men this week, because we got number 0. So if you don't want to be spoiled, pause here, go read the books, come back. We'll still be here.
And there's no telling when we'll stray off into Civil War or the Clone Saga, or there's no telling what tangent we may take. So
that's the thing, is it's not relegated to just this week. We may spoil something because we are 6 months behind. We may spoil something that happened, that hit the newsstands 2 weeks ago. Because
I got like 64 ounces of caffeine here. There's no telling what's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Well, let's start off with our event. The big event this week and in the coming weeks is going to be Inhumans versus X-Men. They're finally going to war with each other, sort of. we get kind of we had Death of X, and that happened 8 months ago when the universe rebooted, and then we had all the X-Men books that we've been reading that have happened since then, and this is the book that bridges the two events. So, and the whole book is told in descending order. So 8 months, 6 months, 4 months, 2 months, like that. So we begin 8 months ago, directly after the events of Death of X. Hank McCoy is getting to work on a possible cure for Mpox, and he has no idea how he's going to achieve this, but he has all the confidence in the world that science can find a solution. Meanwhile, on Muir Island, Emma Frost hurls herself off a cliff. She's learning to change into her diamond form more quickly so that she can survive her encounter with Black Bolt when the time comes.
I'm just thinking that's metaphorically and literally happening. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's intentional in the storytelling.
Yes.
So we know the time is going to come when she's going to confront Black Bolt because she's going to make sure of it. Sometime later, Emma meets with Magneto and his X-Men to discuss finishing the job. By finishing the job, she means killing the Inhumans, because Scott's idea was we have to kill all the Inhumans, and as Emma keeps saying, ideas don't die, and that's the idea that she's decided that's going to be Scott Summers' legacy, is killing the Inhumans, which is really what she wants to do.
Was that Scott's idea or her idea?
A little of both, I think. A little of both.
Okay.
So Magneto tells her it's not wise to go to war with the Inhumans, and he lays out a bunch of reasons why. Pardon me. And Emma just says, "You're afraid. You're being a coward," which, of course, he doesn't take very well. He, with his use of magnetic powers, grabs a knife from Sabretooth and hurls it at Emma's head, and she's able to turn into her diamond form very quickly and stop it.
Well, she had dared him to do so.
Right. Like before, she was like, "Hey, you should do this just to test me," and he did. And what she explains to him is she needs someone for this war with the Inhumans. She needs someone capable of doing dark deeds to get the job done, and he's her man, which says a lot about Magneto and also about where Emma is mentally. So 4 months ago, Beast is in the Savage Land continuing his research while Emma's recruiting mutants for a war. She approaches the young X-Men, and by young X-Men, I mean the time-displaced original X-Men from the past. They're willing to lend a hand. They seem a little cautious, but she got the signal of approval, so she's all up. She's going to call when she needs them. Beast then approaches Medusa and tells her that he's not yet found a cure for Mpox, and why. It has to do with the way the X gene manifests in mutants. He goes into an explanation in the book, but essentially what they would have to do is, because each mutation is different when the X gene is triggered, they would have to come up with a unique vaccine for every single mutant on the planet. So despite this, he's still undaunted. He's going to continue working on the problem, but he's beginning to fear that a confrontation between mutants and Inhumans is going to happen before he can figure it out. So meanwhile, Emma recruits the Hellfire Club to her cause. This whole book is just, here's what Beast is doing. He's working on a cure. And then here's what Emma's doing. She's recruiting an army.
Who is she meeting with their Hellfire Club?
I wasn't sure. I was actually going to ask you.
I don't know.
I don't either, and I'm sure it'll be revealed later. I think we're meant to not know. So then, yesterday, the Terrigen Cloud reaches the Savage Lands, and Beast is alarmed at first. Then he just dismisses it and decides to go have lunch. And there's a panel there where he pauses for a moment and he contemplates all the things that the X-Men have done over his time with them. And I'm not sure what he's thinking there, but or why the Terrigen Cloud being in the Savage Land is even relevant. But he seems to dismiss it. Do you know what's going on there with him?
Oh, I absolutely do.
Well, tell me about it, because it went over my head.
He knows what's happening with the Terrigen Cloud.
Okay.
And what's going on with it. See, the Savage Land doesn't operate the same way the rest of the world does. So Savage Land has a different, for lack of a better term, a different DNA and
well, it's even a different atmosphere.
A different atmosphere than the rest of the world does. So when you take samples from the Savage Land, you're going to learn what's happening in the Savage Land is what may happen in the rest of the world, say a year from now or 2 years from now or 5 years from now. So when you take a sample from the Savage Land, you're gonna learn things about what's coming, if that makes sense.
Okay. What does that have to do with what Beast did?
He learned what's happening. I mean, we're getting in spoiler territory. I can tell you what he learned.
Nah, I'll leave it. We'll leave that stone unturned. I'm curious. So later in Limbo, Beast places a phone call to Storm and asks them to come to Muir Island. He wants to discuss the current state of his research. About that same time, Emma arrives at the X Mansion to recruit them to her cause. And that's the end of the book, but I seriously doubt that conversation is going to go well.
No, it's not going to go well at all.
Yeah, kind of a lot to chew on in this first issue. And when do we get AVX #1?
In 2 weeks, which should be next week.
Okay, cool.
I just sent you a message.
Okay, I'm looking forward to this series as a whole.
And I hope you wanted that knowledge because, you know, I didn't want to share it with anyone else, but you wanted it personally.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Okay.
So anyway, why don't you tell us?
Talking in code and nobody else knows about it.
Right. So we didn't have any Spider-Man books this week. We only have the one X-Men book. So you want to tell us about Extraordinary X-Men real quick?
Yeah, you know, I hate it when they do this. When you don't have any Civil War books, you don't have any Spider-Man books, you just, you know, only have one X-Men book. It's kind of different.
Yeah.
So, if I knew who that was, it would be interesting. Is that the prosecutor?
Yes.
We're up to Extraordinary X-Men 16.
Mm-hmm.
And okay. See, here's the thing. I type good notes and then I'll lose the notes. There we go. This has been a really good story. How many issues is this going on where Storm and Magic have been chasing Sapna?
At least 7 or 8.
It's been a while, and they've chased her across all these universes, dimensions, if you will, and she has finally reappeared in Limbo where X-Haven is, and it's. I'm torn because I really like Uncanny X-Men. That's where Magneto is, right?
Yeah, that's the Magneto book. Is Uncanny?
That's the Magneto book. I like Uncanny X-Men, but I really like this Extraordinary X-Men book too, which has Storm and X-Haven. They're in Limbo, and it's her team of Storm, Magic, Colossus, basically all the mutants that live in the X-Mansion, which happens to be X-Haven in Limbo. So I'm really enjoying this book.
Yeah, this is actually the one X-Men book that's a bright shining light, in my opinion, in a sea of mediocre X-Men books that are currently being published.
Yeah, and this is basically the final showdown between Apocalypse, which is a story that began basically with issue 1, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this story that's been going on with Sapna for at least half a dozen issues. So they've chased Sapna to, and you've got two storylines that are coinciding here because they've chased Sapna to Limbo. They've got Apocalypse chained up in the basement, which was kind of a revelation a few issues ago. And they've also captured Colossus, who's a horseman of Apocalypse, and they've got him chained up beside Apocalypse in a cage. And as they're fighting Sapna, she's just basically stomping all the X-Men. The Wolverine, or Wolverine Logan, we should say, Old Man Logan, we should say.
Yeah.
She's putting a beating on all of them. She's put a beating on Jean Grey, who winds up down in Forge's lab, which is where they're all retreating to. And Apocalypse is basically telling Forge, he's wanting to make a deal, which is, I'll go beat her, and I'll turn Colossus back from a horseman into a human being, and I'll go beat her, and you set me free. And Forge isn't buying it for a second. And Nightcrawler, who's, of course, Peter's longtime friend, Peter Rasputin, Colossus, is considering it. So about that time, Storm and Magic finally show up from the other dimension, whichever one they were in. And Storm and Magic join the fight, and it's still not winning. And there's a pretty cool scene where, a pretty cool panel, I should say, where Storm takes all her lightning, all her energy, channels it into the sword, and they attack Sapna with it, and it gets close, but it doesn't quite work. Finally, they agree to free Apocalypse, and Nightcrawler basically talks Forge into it. He transforms Peter back, except Nightcrawler double crosses him because right as they're defeating Sapna, I really don't understand what's happening. There's kind of a vortex. Maybe you can explain it to me. There's kind of a vortex above Limbo, and he frees Apocalypse, but he then transports him. He bamps him right into the middle of that vortex, and I don't know where Apocalypse went, but he wasn't very happy with it.
Yeah, essentially, I think what it was is he puts him in the middle of that vortex, and it kills Apocalypse or hurts him pretty severely.
I'm not sure you can ever kill Apocalypse. You can make him regenerate again, but yeah.
But essentially, it releases all of his power, and it's able to stop Sapna from destroying the mansion.
And right, and at that point, Sapna's begging Magic to kill her, and Magic takes the sword and kills her, and all this happens at the same time.
Yeah, just like she saw in her vision.
Right. Everyone lives happily ever after. And at the end, there's a panel at the end where they draw Magic, Alana, is it Rasputin?
Rasputin.
I believe. Rasputin. I always get that pronounced incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks like the child that she is, because sometimes you forget that she is a child that was like 6 or 7 years old, transported to Limbo for a couple of months, and came back at like 13 or 14. And she's really only like, what, about 20?
Yeah, I mean, she's 20 years
that,
old, probably, if that, yeah.
Yeah, if that, late teens, maybe 20. And there's a panel there where she actually looks like it. Mm-hmm. And you sometimes forget with all the demons she's fought and everything she's been through, she's really just a kid. And there's a panel there where she's just sitting there and she looks like it. And I won't spoil the ending for you, but there's a panel where she actually looks like a kid, and it's pretty cool. It's a good ending to the story.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this story. I liked this whole dynamic, this whole narrative.
Yeah,
it was all right.
I did too. It was good. It was very. I thought it was very good.
Yeah, it was. Like I said earlier, in a sea of mediocre X-Men books, this has been a really good one.
Yeah, I agree.
And, at the end, Storm decides to take they can't be in Limbo anymore. She's going to take them back to probably Westchester or something, I assume.
She's going to take them somewhere.
Yeah. That was the only X-Men book we had. Moving on to the Avengers, we have New Avengers number 18, which I'm going to go ahead and tell you I really enjoyed. I enjoyed more than I really ought to have enjoyed it. Roberto da Costa has died. He's been sick for a while. Now he's dead. At his funeral, all of his friends have gathered to mourn him, including the AIM goons, which I thought was funny. See, it's a really bummer issue because it's the funeral, but there's a lot of humor dispersed through the whole thing. Then you have Warlock, who asks when he can enter Bobby's corpse and ride it around, which I thought was totally inappropriate and hilarious. And then there's an exchange with Squirrel Girl and Koi Boy about how they're behaving at a funeral. Then suddenly time freezes, and the former leaders of AIM show up. And they're here in order to confirm that Roberto is dead and that they can take back their organization. Surprise! It turns out he's not dead at all. This was all a big ruse to draw out the AIM leaders and their sympathizers. All the various heroes assemble and take out the AIM leaders. And meanwhile, Roberto DaCosta has given his team other assignments around the world to take out splinters of AIM. So once they're done, they discuss what the plan to do in the future. Power Man and Dr. Bashir teaming up and heading back to New York. The two White Tigers are not going to be White Tigers anymore. AQ and Dr. Tony Ho finally figure out how they feel about each other. And my favorite part was Wiccan and Hulkling are tasked with taking out this AIM splinter cell that's located in a very nice corner apartment in Manhattan overlooking Central Park. They kick the door in, and it turns out to be a surprise for them that Roberto set up. They had their assets frozen by S.H.I.E.L.D., so he was like, well, the least I can do is give you guys a place to live, which I thought was nice. If you couldn't tell by the way this book's going, this is the last issue of this, and they're giving all the characters a send-off. Later, Roberto reveals that AIM and S.H.I.E.L.D. are merging to create an American intelligence mechanics. And this series is going to be relaunched as U.S. Avengers #1. Is it next month, probably?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
It's not next month, very soon.
Yeah, in the next couple of weeks. So that book is going to feature, I imagine it'll be a lot like this. It's going to feature one of the Captain Americas. I don't think it's America Chavez. I think it's like the one from 2099. Red Hulk. Of course, you got Roberto DaCosta. You've got Squirrel Girl.
I know Sam Guthrie's in it.
Who's Sam Guthrie? Sam Guthrie.
Cannonball.
Cannonball. Yeah. I had to think about it for a minute. Yeah, Cannonball. Like I said, Squirrel Girl's going to be in the team still. Looks like it might be a good book. We'll see what happens. Is Al Ewing still going to write it? Is he going to be writing U.S. Avengers?
I honestly don't know.
Okay. I don't know either, but I hope so. Yeah, it was all right. It was a nice little send-off book for a new Avengers series that was really better than it had any business being, given the lineup and the kind of nature of the book. I think the series as a whole, except that time they fought that giant lizard thing, was actually really good. You had the Maker, you had the whole thing with S.H.I.E.L.D. and the S.H.I.E.L.D. versus AIM versus whatever the Maker's organization is, Whisper. You had the stuff with Wiccan and Hulkling. They fleshed out those characters and a few others really well. I really enjoyed this series. I thought it was pretty good. And it made me like Roberto DaCosta, who I knew who he was, but I wasn't super familiar with him. And this made me, this sort of recalibrating of him as a super genius is really cool.
He's always been this.
Mm-hmm.
They fleshed him out very well with it.
Yeah, he's never really gotten this treatment where he's leading his own team and has the assets available to him to run an Avengers team like this.
Right. I mean, it's always,
or even an X-Men team.
Right. If you go back and read the original New Mutants graphic novel, he's always had this ability and these finances and this brain power. No one's ever just exploited it to this extent, and it's good to see someone doing it.
Yeah, it was a good series. I enjoyed it. I liked it quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, and that brings us to a very interesting little book called The Great Lakes Avengers #2.
You like this book.
And, I actually do. I it's not like it's going to be my book of the week.
Yeah.
And, I'm not even sure I'd pay $4 for it. I don't know if I'd pay the $3.99 for it, but it's a surprisingly good read. I mean, it's funny. It's got an interesting storyline going. It's got characters that are funny and interesting. It's basically got everything you're looking for in a comic book. Did you read this?
Yeah, I read it.
What did you think of it?
It's okay. It's got that kind of goofy thing going on, which I can enjoy. Chip Zdarsky wrote it, who's also was doing Howard the Duck, and occasionally he'll occasionally guest spot on Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, it's got that Howard the Duck, Squirrel Girl.
It's got that goofy, funny comedy book vibe.
Yeah,
which is fine, and it needs to. You couldn't take these guys seriously.
No.
It's not bad. Yeah, I think you like it more than I do, but I enjoyed it just fine.
Well, I mean, the thing is, when they announced the Great Lake Avengers, I actually groaned, and
I did too.
And the thing is, I thought, man, come on, I'm not going to read this seriously, really.
Yeah.
And I read the first issue, and I was like, man, it's not bad. And I read the second issue, and I was like, this is getting better. I mean, this is actually enjoyable. I'm actually looking forward to the third issue. So yeah, it's not bad, man.
It doesn't suck.
It doesn't suck.
Yeah.
That's that. I think when we were texting about it, I think that was the conclusion, is it doesn't suck.
Yeah. A book that really ought to suck, The Great Lakes Avengers, doesn't suck. Good job.
No. Yeah. So we begin, last issue, they wound up in Detroit. They wake up. I'm not sure if they had a party or if they just, crashed, but they wake up to a party going on, and they go into the bar, and there is quite a party going on, and it's being hosted by his name is Nain Rogue, and that's French, and I probably butchered it, but that's what it is. So live with it if I butchered it.
You got it mostly right, probably.
Yeah, there you go. And Bertha goes over to quietly discuss with him, and it doesn't go very well. So it turns into a brawl, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time discussing this book. We probably just spent too much time discussing it. It quickly turns into a brawl, which lands him in jail, and people are turning into blue werewolves, which I really don't understand. So one of the werewolves winds up there in the jail, and they decide to save the werewolf, and their lawyer shows up, and their lawyer has one of the funniest lines I have heard in a long time. And I'm going to read it, yeah. And I'm probably not going to do it justice, but I'm going to read it. Unless somebody can explain to me right now why they threw my clients, the Avengers, in jail for doing their job, I'm going to shove an infinity gauntlet so far up the station's collective ass that you'll be erasing the realities when you fart. Okay, that's funny.
That's why Chip Zdarsky is writing this book, because he's funny like that.
That's just funny. And you cut from that to Mr. Immortal, who I spent 10 minutes looking for his name, and you said, why didn't you ask? Who is still in a casket, buried, 8 or 10 feet underground. And Dorman senses that he's dying, so he goes and gets him and drags him out of the casket. And you find out that Mr. Immortal wants to be there for whatever reason, whether he's addicted to drugs or he's, sobering up or whatever reason. We don't find out this issue. He wants to be in the casket, and he's put himself there for a year. And I don't know why you would want to be in a casket for a year, dying and coming back to life and dying and coming back to life, but that's what he's done. So there you go. Then we cut back to the jail, where a city councilman comes in yelling and screaming about these people being released, who we find out is Nain Rogue. And that's the end of the issue. And it was really quite enjoyable. I mean, it was, it was fun.
Yeah, it's a fun book. And that's what it ought to be.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. Now, again, doesn't suck. Good job, Marvel.
Yeah, there you go.
God knows the adventure writing right now are garbage. Actually, they're not. It's probably fine. I just don't like Captain America being a Nazi. We've talked about that ad nauseum. But it does remind me that right now in New York is a Marvel Writers Summit. All of them are sitting together around a table discussing ideas for the future, probably right now.
Do we have
do
we have tweets yet?
The only tweet I've seen is Jason Aaron and Gary Dugan and Dan Slott having drinks at a tiki bar.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah,
that's probably where most of the work gets done, over drinks.
Yeah, actually, it's 8:30 their time, or a little after, so they're probably at the same tiki bar right now.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah. So moving on to our main Marvel Universe books, we have Miss Marvel number 13, which I actually enjoyed quite a bit. I've really enjoyed all of the Miss Marvel stuff. So Kamala's still dealing with the loss of her friend Bruno, who didn't die. He just moved away. She's sad about it. His ex-girlfriend's sad about it. They're sad about it together. However, this is interrupted by her brother-in-law, who is now attending her school and is in her classes. The reason for this is because of bizarre overnight rezoning issues by the city. So Miss Marvel, finding that to be a bit odd, goes to City Hall to talk to the mayor and find out what the deal with this is. I like the little sequence where she's just riding on top of a bus, and he stops in front of City Hall, and she's like, thanks, Big M. And he's like, thanks, Charlie. I like that she has a personal relationship with the bus drivers in the city.
That is funny.
And it also gives you this idea that, unlike Spider-Man, she's really appreciated by Jersey City. She goes to talk to the mayor. He gives her some pretty bland political speech while writing "help" on a piece of paper, letting her know that they're being listened to, they're being watched, and something is very wrong. So she enlists Mike to do some research, and they find out that it's their old nemesis, gerrymandering, and also Hydra. Hydra is trying to fix the local elections in their never-ending effort to undermine democracy across the globe. So they decide to fight fire with fire. Miss Marvel and Mike find a candidate they support, and they take on the monumental task of getting out the vote overnight, because literally it's like the election's like the next day. I guess. So she uses her Miss Marvel persona to rally voters, knock on doors, and talk to the citizens. And what this book does a good job of is this is actually a really good lesson in how the mechanics of elections work. It answers questions people often have about voting, like how to register, how to know if you're registered, how to vote by mail, how college students can register to vote in their college towns. She also makes the case against non-participation as a kind of vote. She explains how coalitions work and how candidate purity is a crap argument. I actually really liked all this. Of course, I'm super nerdy about this kind of stuff, but it's also something that I think needs to be understood better by young people who may be reading this.
You realize the bleep that we used during the Great Lake Avengers book?
Uh-huh.
I got about 4 pages into this and realized I don't give a bleep.
And yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's because you're old and cynical.
It's got nothing to do with the politics, man. Miss Marvel riding around on a bus trying to get people to vote. Really? Come on, man.
No, I see what you're saying. It's kind of like it's in a similar vein of like that wrestling book that we had the other week in Captain America.
Yeah, it's the same thing, man. I mean, it's got nothing to do with the voting thing. It's just
I understand. Come on. No, I can definitely understand why you would read this and be like, what? Especially if you pick this up just going, Miss Marvel, I've never read this before. And you read this and this is the idea that you get of what Miss Marvel is.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
you spend $4 expecting some action.
Yeah.
And you spend $4 getting preached to about politics. Come on.
Yeah. And people who say, get your politics out of my comic books, I understand, but I think it's funny that this is literally how, like, it's not partisan politics. It's literally politics. It's how politics work.
I understand,
I think
and a page or two of it's fine, dude. But it was a whole issue.
I didn't mind it so much because it scratches an itch that I like. But
I'll send you a book, okay? I'll send you a couple of books, hardback, 300 pages. Keep it out of my comics.
yeah, I got you. I hear what you're saying. I'm not saying it was the best thing to do. I'm just saying I enjoyed it.
Okay.
So anyway, through a massive get out the vote effort, they're able to sway the election in favor. Yes, they're able to sway the election in favor of their candidate, despite the evils of gerrymandering. Through the electoral and school districts are all reverted back to their former boundaries, and the day is saved, along with a lesson in democracy. I'm done now. We can move on.
Okay. Don't worry. I don't have a lot much better to say about Old Man Logan number 14.
Oh, you didn't like this?
I know where it's going. It's going to this whole monster thing.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm just, dude.
But at least he's fighting one of the cool monsters.
This is true. So anyway, I've been trying to remember the Sentinel's name and I can't, but Logan's hanging out there at X-Haven, and the Sentinel, is it Danger? It's not Danger. It's
no.
Anyway, the Sentinel comes up and says, "Hey man, there's an X-Men missing." And Logan's like, "I don't care. Go yourself." And and the Sentinel says, "Well, I really hate to bother you, but it's Jubilee." And Logan's like, "Okay, let's go find her." So they go to Jubilee's house, and Shogo is there by himself, which is all bad. So then, by the way, the Sentinel can teleport.
Yeah,
it can take him anywhere. So he takes Logan to the last location, which is Romania, where Logan runs into. I just forget. Oh, the Howling Commandos. That's what it is.
Yeah, they're the monster Howling Commandos.
Right, the monster Howling Commandos. He runs into them, and they make their way up to. What's
Transylvania?
Dracula's, yeah, I was going to say Transylvania, but there's a name for Dracula's castle, and I can't remember it.
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, so they make their way up to Dracula's castle, and they fight their way inside, where they find Jubilee, who says she wants to be rescued, and then of course, she bites Logan in the neck, and we're off to the races.
Yeah. I particularly enjoyed the art in the book. It's a different style, and a buddy of mine bought the trade for this back when the Cerebra is the name of the Sentinel.
Yes.
Because it's basically Cerebro stuffed into a Sentinel.
Right.
He bought the trade during the Amazon sale, and he actually read this, and he's ahead of me on this. And so he's further along in reading this than I am. He told me, this is not the new artist. There's a couple issues of this, and then it goes back to what they were doing. But yes, this is all part of that Monsters Unleashed thing. But I actually really enjoyed the art on this. I think the use of color was really good.
The art wasn't bad, and the color was good. I'm just not into the story.
Okay, and I understand that. I am, because you get to see Old Man Logan and the Howling Commandos, who I really like. Thing in particular. Another book that was middling to mediocre is Deadpool Back in Black number 4. I
thought you were into this series.
I enjoy it okay, but this issue was I'm gonna make it short. Kraven has mistaken Deadpool for Spider-Man and is hunting him. This all happens around the same time Kraven's last hunt happened. Lots of typical Deadpool jokes. One particularly about Kraven going commando under his loincloth is funny.
That is pretty funny.
It is funny. If you've enjoyed this series so far, you'll like this issue. I enjoyed the issue. It's not the best Deadpool book I've ever read, but it's all right. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah. Then there's the Uncanny Inhumans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This book sucks.
No,
Nah, this book sucks.
no.
Nah, this book sucks.
It's got a good ending.
Okay.
So they
I'm not sure.
resurrected.
I'm not sure I finished reading it.
Is Orin her name?
Orin, yes.
They've resurrected Orin from the dead, and the problem is she's incomplete because they didn't resurrect all of her memories.
Why should I care?
When they resurrected Orin from the dead, they didn't resurrect all of her memories. They resurrected her powers, they resurrected her body, but they didn't resurrect her memories. So she's pretty crazy. And she, what's the detective's name? Mike. Anyway, she starts running around and she's in a quiet room and she's creating chaos in there. And Flagman tries to stop her and they're all trying to stop her. And finally, Black Bolt shows up at the end and somehow she reaches out and touches Black Bolt and literally steals his voice.
Yeah.
Which
I'll admit that was neat.
That was neat. Now, I'm with you. The whole book wasn't very interesting, but I don't know how she stole his voice at the end and how he's talking. And that's pretty cool. That was like the redeeming part of the story. And it basically took 2 issues to get to that page, but that made it interesting.
Yeah, the problem with this book, the consistent problem with this book is I don't care about these characters and it hasn't given me a reason to care about these characters. I'm someone who has a hard time giving a rip about the Inhumans anyway. The only reason I do care is because they're becoming more prominent in the Marvel Universe. And I like some of them, but man, this book just doesn't interest me. These characters don't interest me.
Let's face it. This thing went on about a 10-issue filler until we got Civil War. And then it was interesting. And this is a 3-issue filler until we get to IVX.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say when these Inhumans aren't in the middle of an event. These characters aren't really interesting.
No, and I understand what they're trying to do is they're introducing these characters and trying to explore them a little bit. But man, maybe other people feel differently, but I have a hard time finding a reason to give a rip.
I'm with you. I understand.
Yeah. What I did give a rip about is Ghost Rider #1.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, I've never been a big Ghost Rider fan. Especially after he was played by Nicolas Cage. But I tell you what, dude, watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and them doing Robbie Reyes in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. made me a Ghost Rider fan. And I was really happy to see them launch a new Ghost Rider book with Robbie Reyes as Ghost Rider. So Robbie Reyes is back in town. He's teaching his brother about engines at the auto shop. And it would seem his brother has special needs. They don't really get into it, but it looks that way. On their way home, they have a run-in with some gang members. Meanwhile, the Hulk is investigating a new element that's been discovered. Wait, I thought this was a Ghost Rider book. It is. Why is the Hulk here? I don't know. Turns out this element thing is actually alive and is some kind of monster that the Hulk now has to deal with, and it's kind of getting away from him, actually. Anyway, back with Robbie, he drops his brother off at home, tells him to go do his homework or whatever. Then he goes and puts a beat down on those gangsters, Ghost Rider style. And then Laura and Gabby are getting tacos also. I don't know why they're there. I imagine it's going to have something to do with this monster that's gotten loose, and all of the Hulk and Ghost Rider and Wolverine and Gabby are all going to come together and do a thing. Maybe form a new team.
Or maybe they're all going to fight and brawl it out because, the Hulk and Wolverine.
Yeah, and also I imagine this is Monsters Unleashed rearing its head again.
Sure.
The book was good. I enjoyed the writing, and I'm realizing there's a B story that I neglected to read. Just I thought it was over, and I was wrong. Something to do with
I'll
Robbie
get you
Reyes
what.
meeting.
True.
Do what?
I read a page or two of the B story and said, I don't care.
Robbie Reyes meets a chick with leopard, who's got like leopard things going on Instagram. They meet up in street race, and now they're in love. Okay, whatever. Okay, I'm glad I didn't read
exactly
that.
Yes, be glad.
Okay.
Be glad.
Yeah, solid first issue. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Hang on. Who's writing this? Who's the creative team here? Philippe Smith is writing it. Tradmore and Danilo Bayruth, along with Marco Chiquetto. Never heard of any of them. Oh, well, the art looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all right.
There you go.
Yeah. If you're a Ghost Rider fan, you'll like it.
Yeah. The art was good. I did enjoy the book. It wasn't great, but it was good. I liked it.
Even though I knew it was going to be Robbie Reyes, I was trepidatious about reading it because I'm just not a big Ghost Rider fan, even though I do like Robbie Reyes as Ghost Rider. And it exceeded my expectations.
Yeah. Totally Awesome Hulk number 12. This is an interesting read because in the last issue, Amadeus Cho, the Hulk, is fighting this monster. And I just looked, the monster doesn't have a name for some reason. I don't know why. He's fighting a monster who feeds off of emotion. And he was trying to defeat the monster with emotion and failed miserably. And the Black Panther's still there, T'Challa's still there, and they wind up chasing the monster into a very small crevice that only Amadeus Cho and his sister can get into. And the monster has also transformed back into the young teenager that he is. And the monster discards the baby, and the young teenager becomes monster again. And Amadeus Cho becomes the Hulk. You know, of course, it's feeding off his emotion. And his sister is yelling at him not to do it as they begin brawling it out there in the sewer with the baby and the sister and all of them there. And finally, his sister defeats the monster, and she blows him up with some kind of energy weapon, and she expresses her displeasure with Amadeus Cho for being so stupid. And she just says, "Hey, I've had enough," and peace out. And Amadeus doesn't seem to believe her, except she really is gone. And
yeah, I mean, she basically says, "Look, you can say sorry all you want to, but you never mean it, so I'm out."
Yeah, I'm out. And he gets back up topside, and the baby's there, and everybody's calling him a hero. And it's one of those times when you're in the middle of 100 people and you're very, very lonely.
Yeah, he wants to feel like a hero, but he doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't because he know he did the wrong thing, and he's all alone. So he goes to find someone to talk to. Catches up with him a week later in Topeka, Kansas, a guy by the name of Clint Barton. And they sit down and just have a good cry together because they both miss their friend.
Well, that's the thing is he's been pursuing Clint Barton for the last few issues. That's why the Black Panther tried to stop him. And I think you can tell when he walks into that diner, Amadeus Cho's not sure if he's going to Hulk out and kill Clint or not. He hasn't made that decision yet. And as they begin to talk a little bit, I think he comes around, given the recent events with his sister and everything, and all of what's been going on in the last 2 or 3 issues. And it's when Clint looks at him and says, "Are you okay?" And he says, "No." And Clint just gets teary-eyed and says, "Me either." And they both miss their friend, and they have that in common, and they grieve together.
Yeah, it's this was a good issue. This was
a really solid issue.
Was this a 2-issue arc or a 3-issue arc?
Oh, it's been more than that. It's been
no, yeah, but it's been like 2 issues with the Black Panther or 3.
It's been like 3 or 4.
Anyway, it's a good little arc, and it's a nice ending to this whole Civil War Clint Barton thing. Yeah, it's a good ending. It wrapped it up well. I was pleased with it.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah.
Let me check. Yeah, Black Panther shows up at the end of issue number 9, and this is issue 12, so it's 4 issues.
Okay.
Yeah. So Guardians of the Galaxy number 14.
And by the way, just a conversation between you and I. Let's go from Guardians of the Galaxy to Thunderbolts to Star Wars, then back up to Black Widow number 8.
Okay, that's fine.
And then we'll go from there to the Classic Creed.
Cool.
Okay.
This Guardians book I'm gonna make real quick. Skrulls capture Spider-Man to use as bait for Venom because they want his symbiote. The Guardians beat the crap out of some Skrulls and rescue Spider-Man, and Rocket hates Earth. I don't know. I'm assuming this all takes place some time ago, and this is like it had to have because Venom's no longer part of the Guardians. Anyway, it was not a great issue, actually. I didn't enjoy this at all.
No, I don't know what this is, man. Is this a filler issue or?
I guess it's like a filler issue. Maybe it's a story they put in the drawer for a day, for like an annual, or whenever they needed one for a gap for the writer. I don't know, but
it's basically why Rocket Raccoon hates Earth, and it all has to do with Spider-Man.
Yeah, and it's out of sync with the time. And the first thing is like Rocket and Groot are on Earth, and it's like they're stranded on Earth, and then all of a sudden they're in space again with the Guardians.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how is it a flashback? Is he remembering why he hates Earth and it's because of Spider-Man? And there's some cool stuff between Spider-Man and Venom. There's the thing with he respects Spider-Man's identity, and while he's unconscious, he says, no, we can't, take his mask off. That,
there's that's what Flash says. Right.
That's what Flash says. Yeah. Who is Venom at this point in time.
Right. Rocket doesn't care. Rocket would have ripped it off in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Rocket probably doesn't care who's under the mask.
Right.
It's funny. That makes me think of a scene from a Spider-Man cartoon I saw one time where they finally somebody finally captured Spider-Man, and they're like, okay, we're going to find out who Spider-Man is. And they pull his mask off and they go, I have no idea who this is. Because not everybody in New York knows who Peter Parker is. Very few people know who Peter Parker is. And that's probably what would happen if you pulled the mask off of a random superhero. You just go, that's a dude or a lady. Okay. Do they have a wallet? You start looking around for ID. Anyway, this book was...
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to Thunderbolts number 7, which this is getting interesting. This is
it's I think it's on the upswing.
Well, it's a Secret Empire upswing. I mean, it's where it's headed.
Mm-hmm.
We start with Maria Hill telling people to get the bleep out of her way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you can name this episode.
Bleep.
The bleep episode. Yeah. Because she's determined to see Bucky, and she doesn't care about any protocols or who's in her way. And she finally gets to the Winter Soldier, and she simply wants Kobik. She doesn't care where she is, where she is. She wants Kobik. She wants it now.
What she has to do to get her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me now. Period. And
it's like the girl from Willy Wonka. Give it to me now.
Yes.
I want it now.
And Bucky simply refuses. And then we cut to Kobik, who just says, let's go get him. Let's go now. Why can't we go get him? Why can't we just, why not? She's as determined as Maria Hill, except she has the power to destroy the universe, and they're all trying to keep her calm and trying to explain to her why they can't go get Bucky now.
Right. Why she can't just blow up the shield base with her cosmic powers.
Yes. And I really don't understand. Well, it's a storytelling device why they just can't let her, materialize Bucky out of there and back to where they are. So
yes,
they argue about it, and then
because it would be a 3-issue comic book,
right,
or a 3-page comic book.
Yeah, and now that the New Avengers are over, Songbird, Melissa Gold has nothing to do, so she's chilling on a beach when they call her, and then we cut back.
It's funny because I read this after I read New Avengers, like directly after.
Yeah.
And I imagine that like she had been on the beach for about 15 minutes and just ordered a drink, and it had just come to her, and she gets this call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we cut back to Maria Hill, and she's sitting there having a cup of coffee, and
I want that mug.
Number one Shield agent.
Yeah.
Dude, if you saw the room behind me, you would know that I can make you that mug. Actually, I have people who can make you that mug.
Dude.
So anyway, so somebody whispers in her ear, Captain America is here. And she says, already? And just to continue with the theme of the episode, it's after that, it's bleep, 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 bleep.
Lots of bleeping, yes.
Yes, lots of bleeping. And he demands to see Bucky, and they swap words. And, Bucky, insists he's doing it for this. And this is one of those times when you have to realize that this isn't Captain America. This is the head of Hydra.
Yeah. And as soon as he showed up, I was like, okay, this is when I need to remember that he's a Hydra agent.
Yes. This isn't Steve Rogers. This is Secret Empire head of Hydra. And that gets so confusing because it's not like this is something that's going to happen 6 months from now. This is something they told us at the end of Captain America #1.
Mm-hmm. So
it's not like this is a reveal that we're spoiling for you. This is the reveal they told us, what, eight months ago?
Yeah.
Right. So we know this. They're telling us with every issue of Captain America, this is who he is. But in these other books, you just, that's Captain America. Oh, okay. And if you didn't know what was going on in Captain America and all these other books, you just say, oh, there's Cap, which is really weird. I mean, it's just, if you weren't reading Steve Rogers' Captain America, you'd see this and you say, oh, there's Captain America. Cool.
Yeah. You just have no idea he was a Hydra agent, which I think is kind of what they were banking on.
Right.
And then when they come out with Secret Empire, it's a big, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But
then at the end of page 17, there's this creepy panel where he looks at Bucky and says, do you trust me? And you're thinking, no, Bucky, no.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah. So then the Thunderbolts get together and they launch a rescue operation, and there you go. That's the end of the issue.
It immediately goes south. Immediately.
Well, it hasn't yet, but it's going to.
Yeah.
Well, it did. Yes, it did immediately go south. Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was all right. It's ramping up. I feel like this is getting better.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Typically, we will save the Star Wars books for last. However, we're going to go ahead and discuss our Star Wars Annual #2, and then we'll get to Black Widow because it'll come into play in just a moment with the classic read. So, hey, look, an annual that didn't suck.
What a concept.
So, pardon me. We've talked about annuals before. Annuals are never good, and I don't know why. And I don't know why they keep doing them. It just makes reading difficult. I wish they would put them in the main list when you go to browse a series. I wish that annual would just show up there. Just show up annual 1 between issues 11 and 12 or whatever. It wouldn't hurt anything.
Right.
Anyway,
I'm with you.
Princess Leia has been injured and has been discovered by a local on some backwater planet. She keeps the princess hidden away until she can recover. Meanwhile, they have a serious talk about standing on the sidelines versus getting involved, specifically in regards to the rebellion. Pink hair lady, whose name I can't remember, so I'm just going to refer to her as Pink hair lady, is this the lady that found Princess Leia and has been nursing her back to health. Pink Hair Lady has to make a decision when the stormtroopers show up and start looking for the princess. They're going door to door, searching everyone's house. They're going to find her who's hiding in the closet, princess who's hiding in the closet. So she has to choose whether to protect her or hand her over to the stormtroopers. Big surprise, she chooses to protect her and actually helps her escape the city, which is no easy feat. They're running through sewers. They're being chased by stormtroopers. There's further injuries. They're fighting these stormtroopers. At the end, Pink Hair Lady ends up on the Falcon with the others and decides to join the rebellion.
This was a good annual, and I enjoyed Pink Hair Lady, and I hope she evolves as a character like Dr. Aphra did.
Yeah, I kind of hope we see more of her, that she wasn't just a one-off character for an annual, that she explains earlier in the book that she's an engineer. And I really hope we see her like working on some X-Wings, or, I want to see an exchange with her and Luke about how she's made some modifications to his X-Wing engines and that he should be able to make turns and go faster and stuff like this. And I hope we see more of her, because she was a neat character that was introduced, and I hope they do more with her.
Sure. She was a neat character.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last book of the week, back in the 616 universe, is Black Widow number 8. Now, we're going to just kind of wander around here at the end, because, you've hung with us this long, so hang with us some more. In Black Widow mythology, Natasha Romanoff mythology, she was raised in the Red Room. You've seen it in the movies, particularly in the last Avengers movie, in the first Avengers movie, where it's where she was taught to kill.
Yeah.
It's where she was raised. In this issue, in the last few issues, all these little girls have been trained in the Dark Room, which is the current Red Room. And she managed to kill the headmistress, who was training little girls for the Lion. The problem is all the little girls got away, and they're now out in the world. So the issue begins with these little schoolgirls on a trip to the White House. And when we arrive at the White House, there's a very nice lady who is leading them through the White House on the tour. And as they start through the tour, one of the little ladies has a slight issue, and the tour guide gets a little interface. They begin swapping words. Next thing you know, the little girl pulls out a gun, and they begin to disarm her. The problem is there's 3 little girls there that have guns. And the next thing you know, it's a shootout, and the tour guide is the Black Widow, and there's Secret Service agents everywhere, and there's bullets flying, and then there's a helicarrier, and there's lots of SHIELD agents. And yeah, there you go. It's really a good story. I'm shortening it up here, but it's a good story. And it's the point of it is how these girls are brainwashed and do this. Then of course we still got the Lion's brother, who is there with Natasha, and she doesn't know it. And they begin talking about how many more kids are out there in the world. And it's a good story. It's continuing the story. And do you understand? Is she back with SHIELD?
No, I don't think so. And I think that's why she runs off at the end.
Okay.
I do like that she, through the whole thing, you've got 3 highly trained assassins in the White House. Through the whole thing, she's fighting them, but she doesn't hurt them or kill them. She wants them rehabilitated.
Right. She's insisting that they be rehabilitated.
Right. She could just be cold and heartless and just kill them and just say, well, the damage was done. But instead, she sees, I think she sees herself in them.
Yes, she absolutely does. She absolutely does. Mm-hmm. And she wants to figure out where all these are. And the only person that she would know would be a Watcher, or in this case, a Soldier in Winter, who we happen to see in the cover. I don't know if you noticed that the crescent moon in the cover was Nick Fury. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Unseen.
Yes, the Unseen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a good old story. I really enjoyed it. And now that we're through with that story, we're going to let your Uncle Pat teach you a lesson in comics. Okay.
With our classic read.
It's time for Uncle Pat to teach you a lesson. Let's keep flipping pages until we get to page 23, where, let's see,
Page
Nick
23
Smiles,
of what?
of this Black Widow book,
Okay.
the letters page, where Nick Smiles from Central Wheat Belt, Western Australia, wrote a letter. And God bless him, he started pointing out issues all the way back to Avengers number 29 and Black Widow number 2, and pointing out how she was in World War II, and basically saying that Natasha's about 110 years old.
And so is Captain America.
If you take Marvel continuity, okay, Peter Parker's, I don't know, he's probably, let's see,
In his
he was
80s.
15 and 63. You know, he's in his 80s. They're all in their 80s and 90s, okay? You can't do what this dude did in the letter, okay? You have to suspend reality and just accept the fact that they're always going to be in their 20s or 30s. And they're all going to age about a year for every 5 years, maybe a year for every 10 years. All right? They are.
Well, it's called a sliding
Not going
timeline.
to age. Or sliding timeline. It's a suspension of reality, a sliding timeline, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, Galactus explained it to you in the Ultimates, and the editors have explained it too. But
And the editors explain it very well here. If you look, the editor takes a column and a half to explain to this guy, look, you just got to accept it. Okay? Because you can't, you can't just take all of this stuff as gospel. Because what happens is the Red Room first appeared in Avengers, which is a classic read. It's actually fairly good. The first Avengers series,
Volume.
1963, Volume 1,
Mhm.
issues 29 and 30, where Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, is brainwashed again and sent to, but because at that point she and Hawkeye had been in love. Hawkeye is an Avenger, but she had given up being a Russian spy, but they capture her, brainwash her, and send her with a couple other guys to kill the Avengers. So this was really the first time you see the Red Room being in use. That's 1965. Okay, we can't, you can't accept this. And that's a very good read, by the way. Pretty good read for the time.
Yeah.
You just gotta go with it. You just gotta accept these things. Okay. The same way you accept a helicarrier floating invisibly above the White House there on page 19. Okay. The same way you accept a helicarrier floating invisibly above the 200 feet above the White House, defying all forms of gravity. You just accept the sliding timeline. Okay. Just accept it. Just go with it.
Right. I mean, Tony Stark was originally injured in Vietnam. It's been updated to
First it was updated to Iraq, then it was updated to Afghanistan.
Yeah, some Middle Eastern war. The Punisher was originally in Vietnam. That's been updated. All of these guys have all of this whole thing because they have to be portrayed a certain way. You can't have geriatric Spider-Man swinging around New York, breaking his hip. You just can't do it.
No.
So
we had a geriatric Steve Rogers for a while. Look at what it got us. It got us a Nazi.
Yeah.
Come on, we can't have this.
Right. So just deal with the sliding timeline.
There you go.
Yeah. Moral of the story, old people are Nazis.
Yes.
Wait. Yes. No. Sort of.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway. Maybe. Anyway. Good read. Good little backstory on Black Widow. If you don't know what the sliding timeline is, we basically just explained it, but Google it if you want to know a little more further. What was in the dump this week, other than those Marvel Man books?
Alpha Flight's next week. What was this week?
The only thing that got my attention were those Marvel Man books because I thought, holy crap, these are old and I don't know what this is.
Dude, I just completely went brain dead.
That's okay. It wasn't anything. It was fine.
Oh, was it more X Factor books?
Oh, it was. Yes, it was X Factor. Which is a good series if you haven't ever read it.
Yeah, they're just trying to get caught up.
Yeah, they're just filling in holes.
There's Daredevil stuff being dumped, X Factor stuff being dumped. They're just trying to fill in holes, which is a good thing.
Yep. So,
Yes.
what was your favorite book this week?
Dude, you got me going in 10 different directions. That Extraordinary X-Men book.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
It was a good conclusion to the series. It was good art, good storytelling. I liked what they did with all the characters. I liked seeing Colossus set free. I was afraid they were going to keep him up a horseman forever. I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it myself. I might have to go with I don't know. That new Avengers book was pretty good.
That was a good cover on that book. I don't think we discussed it. That was a cool cover.
Oh yeah, it was a cool cover. IVX was good. I might go with that IVX book just because I'm enjoying the X-Men events right now. I'm enjoying that stuff.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Close second being Old Man Logan.
Yeah, I didn't think that Old Man Logan. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's pretty much it for this week. If you want to get in touch with us, please email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. Please follow us on Twitter at 6monthsbehind. Also visit our website,
www.6monthsbehind.com.
and also remember to listen to our other show, What's Next, where we tell you what's worth reading in Marvel Unlimited. Pat, before we go, do you have any wisdom for our true believers?
The problem with dancing naked is not everything stops when the music stops.
Yes, that's okay.
You know, when you're like you and me, man, that's definitely true.
It's definitely true.
And we ain't talking about the good stuff either.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Anyway, see you guys next week.
Peace.